Voilà, donc il faut resituer le millésime 2013 avec ces éléments climatiques.
To understand the 2013 vintage, let's take a look at the weather. Winter was incredibly rainy, and spring was also wet and very cool until the month of June. The vines usually flower the first 10 days of June, but in 2013 this occurred during the last 10 days, which is to say 2 weeks late.
Cette fleur s'est également passée dans des conditions difficiles avec de l'eau, de la pluie.
Flowering took place under difficult conditions due to the rain. The Merlot and Sémillon vines suffered particularly from coulure. The flowers were not fertilized. This meant that instead of 80 grapes per bunch, we only ended up with 20. This inevitably led to very low yields of about 20 hectolitres per hectare. This all goes back to the poor flowering.
Heureusement, l'été est arrivé et juillet et août, en cumulé, vont faire partie des plus beaux étés.
Fortunately, fine summer weather, some in the best in the past 50 years, arrived in July and August. The summer of 2013 thus saved the vintage, because, believe me, things could have been much worse. July and August thus raised our hopes. By late August, wine growers had regained confidence in the vintage's potential, and were even hoping for a very fine year because of the small crop. This is understandable, because low yields and a beautiful summer generally produce superb quality. However, whereas we had really wanted the month of September to be perfect, it was instead chaotic. In fact, the weather was like a roller coaster ride. Showers alternated with sunny, very dry and very cold periods, although the overall trend was warm. This left us with mixed feelings about the future harvest.
Donner des blancs de belle qualité parce que les blancs ont plutôt besoin d'acidité.
The white wine grapes we picked in September nevertheless produced attractive wines, because white wines need acidity. 2013 was a late ripening vintage with vibrant acidity. The white wines are thus beautifully fresh with a good alcoholic degree and remarkable pH.
Ont été ramassés dans des conditions assez diverses et variées parce qu'il y a eu des pluies qui ont été plus ou moins fortes suivant les régions.
As for the reds, the various grape varieties and plots were picked at different times. Why was this? Because the amount of precipitation varied from one appellation to another one. For example, it rained over 100 millimeters one weekend over much of Bordeaux, whereas there were only 20 millimeters at Chevalier. We were fortunate enough to escape the deluge. We were thus able to pick Merlot grapes in fine condition. These were followed by Cabernet Franc, good, then Petit Verdot and Cabernet Sauvignon, very good.
Avec 2009 et 2010, on a connu des 5 étoiles plus. C'était vraiment le côté exceptionnel.
If we had to give a note out of 5 for Bordeaux vintages, 2009 and 2010 would receive 5 stars. The 2011, 2012 and 2013 vintages are more like 4 stars. Taking a closer look at 2013, the white wines were more like 4.5 stars, because we made some tremendously good whites. The Merlot between 3.5 and 4, the Petit Verdot about 4.5, and the Cabernet Sauvignon between 3 and 4.5, all depending on the terroir and degree of ripeness.
Précocité au niveau de la maturité. Donc un millésime qui va sortir autour de 4 étoiles.
2013 is a 4-star year because it is very uneven. We see this in the vats and barrels.
On a des choses magnifiques et on a des choses un petit peu moins belles.
Some are magnificent and others are less impressive. This contrast is inevitable at practically all estates, and the better ones will need to make a drastic selection during blending. We cannot be indulgent, because this is clearly not a vintage like 2009 or 2010. We need to be realistic. We had a problem with quantity, and sometimes with quality. The best course of action is simply to proceed with common sense.